I'm Adam from Media Lounge, and I'm joined today by Damian Rees from Make Human. I've been actually training with Damian since the beginning of the year, helping me get a better understanding of the deeper and more complex topics that surround UX. So, Damian, thanks for joining us. Do you want to give us a little bit of a history into your experience in UX?
Yeah, sure. So I've been in UX for a long time now, it feels. And a lot of that time I've been doing user research. So that's sitting alongside people while they navigate different stores, different websites. And I've been listening to the things that make them hesitate, the things that don't work for them, the reasons why they jump to another website. And I've learned a lot in that time. So I'm hoping to offer some of that insight today.
Great, thank you. So this is a topic we've been talking about on our Media Lounge channel since April, conversion narrative and storytelling. So with all of our webinars, you've given up your time. So we want this to be informative. We want it to help you save time. We want it to help you justify an ROI to improve UX on your e-commerce stores or within your businesses. There'll be some key actions and takeaways. So Damian's actually provided a checklist, UX checklist tool that will be available for download later. And we're also going to give away some of our services to help anyone out there that feels they could do with a agency supporting them in the changes that they might make via UX. This is really for e-commerce managers, marketing teams, content writers, agencies, IT teams, business owners, or anyone in a kind of senior management position in an e-commerce business. If you've got questions throughout, just pop them in the chat. Chris and John will be on hand to read out your questions, obviously at an appropriate time or in the Q&A bit later on. So yeah, hopefully that covers all the intros. Let's dive into it. So first of all, what we're talking about today, primary and secondary messaging. So primary and secondary messaging through the user journey and how this changes based on how the user progresses through that journey. Tertiary messaging, how that becomes more important at key stages of the journey. Other narratives that connect your audience or a cohort of your audience. This is often like the storytelling element. And we have examples that we're going to talk through with these. So, you know, hopefully we'll be able to take some of the things that we're talking about and show you them in a practical application. We're going to look at the user journey and begin with the end in mind and do something called a switch analysis. So Damian's going to jump on and help me with that. You know, what are customers looking for in your messaging and narrative, and what key decisions are they likely to make at each stage? And then finally, we're going to look at language and humanization. Perhaps we've become a bit robotic and we've forgotten we're actually talking to people. Some examples on how to improve that as well. So what problems does this address? Well, with all UX, there's going to be lots of different metrics to measure, but we've got improvement in bounce rate, improvement in the add to cart rate, removes friction and reduces bottlenecks, improves the user experience overall, and hopefully generates an ROI for business owners to reinvest back in their store in more UX and CRO work to improve that visitor to customer conversion. So messaging. Many forget that the messaging starts long before the visitor comes to the website. So your marketing team and your e-commerce team need to align on this messaging. And we'll give you some examples in a bit of how that misalignment can happen. But the messaging, the primary messaging and the secondary messaging start before the user gets to the website. Many retailers choose their messaging and then splatter this in the same way throughout the journey. So you've actually got to change the message dependent on where the customer is in the customer journey. We're reading a lot about information architecture at the moment and people's skim reading patterns. So making these messages prominent on the page is going to be essential. Also adding well thought out graphics can help explain something difficult. And don't forget, like, there's quite often going to be a call to action. We still want people to progress through the journey. These messages are to provide the correct guidance at the right stage of that journey. So the switch analysis, basically, this is like beginning with the end in mind, and we're going to start at the end of the experience the customer has. So really at the other end we're going to get to is where the customer clicks. But to start with, we're going to start with the delivery of the product. And Damian's going to join me on this. So really the delivery stage that we're talking about, we want to understand what's the customer looking for at this stage. What information might they want to find relevant, and how can we signpost to that? So Damian, hopefully you can join me in this.
Yeah.
At the delivery stage, what do you think we're talking about? Once the customers had the product delivered, they've got the product in their hand, what might be some of the things that they are now looking for from the person or from the company that they purchased from?
I think what they're looking for at this point, this is the moment of truth, right? This is where they've been promised lots of stuff early on, all the way through, and now they're opening this thing, and does it match up to their expectations that have been set really early on? And that comes, in sharp contrast when you see a product that you thought was like this big and actually ends up being massive or really small. There's some quite funny examples out there of that. So that's one of the key ones, I would say, is trying to make sure that it really does deliver on the promise that you set. Because if it doesn't, then the chances are the first thing they're going to want to look at is, how do I send this back and get my money back?
And from a UX point of view, UX is all about, our whole experience, our immersive experience. So, people unboxing a high value product that's not been packaged well, or a low value product, like you said, that maybe is advertised with a big picture and turns up being tiny. Those are some of the things that can change that experience for people, right?
Yeah, and there's some things that might be outside of some retailers' control here, because it depends on how the item's been packaged and boxed and sent and shipped, and was the delivery driver rude? Did it arrive when they expected it to? So some of this stuff will all impact that overall feeling of, was this a quality experience, and is this better than what I kind of get elsewhere? Because if it's not, if there's a letdown at any point in that stage, then there's a good chance that we are quite unforgiving as customers these days, and so we might move on to a different provider.
Yeah, perfect. And then bringing this back to e-commerce slightly, I know when something gets delivered to me, there are there's either the as expected or not as expected, or some confusion around the delivery. So I think clear signposting on the website, maybe on the information in the packaging, or on the emails that they get when something's been delivered, or it's been delivered. It could be how to leave a review, how to complete a return. They might want to speak to customer service. How do they get their tracking details and things like that? So these are all things as an e-commerce retailer we need to make sure are clearly signposted at that delivery stage. And it's only going to cause frustration if it's not.
Yeah, I think one thing to add, sorry, Adam, just to quickly on that one, is in the delivery phase, is if you think about when you get to the end of a book, quite often an author will give you a snippet of what the next book is. So you might get like a free chapter or something. And I think thinking about the experience in that way is quite useful, because you can think about, okay, well, how can we, now that they've got this thing that might have satisfied their need, but how can we start to create a new need? That's an opportunity at that point to add a moment of delight, add something that they weren't expecting, and maybe sort of link them back to going back to the website at some point.
Well, it's much easier to sell to happy customers. So if they've received something and they're happy, and they're in the mood for connecting with the brand again. It's also what we put in the download, the white paper download, as like the retention stage. So this invites you to give them sneak peeks on future products and things like that, or add them to mailing lists, and just stay in touch. But yeah, as Damian says, we can also look at that as, what else can we introduce you to from our range of products or services? So the success page, I think the worst examples of this are, thank you for your order and your order number. And this is a page that nearly every one of your new customers comes to, and quite often just sees a very bland and vanilla experience. Have you seen any examples of this done well, Damian, or any thoughts on this particular page?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, like the first thing that I want to know is the order's gone through, and maybe a reconfirmation that when I'm going to get it. But once those things have been ticked off, then it's an opportunity, because I, as a user, have satisfied my need at that point. So I've gone through the navigation, I found the product I want, I've made a decision, and at that point, it's a big tick really in the box. So there's an open space with which to fill that with something new, exciting, that's something that has been referred to before as the seducible moment. The moment at which somebody's had their needs met, you then got a space that you can offer something new and delightful and maybe sell them on something different, completely different. Because
the seducible moment, I like that.
Yeah.
I think we should put some sort of research out there and find out how long people stay on the success page for.
Yeah. But I think it's one of those things where we're quite goal orientated when we're seeking something and we've made that decision to purchase. Once the goal's satisfied, then there is an opportunity there.
Great. And again, bringing it back to e-commerce, there's simple things: a newsletter sign up, some upsells. You may have checked out as a guest, so why not just ask them for a password and get them to create an account? It's a really good re-engagement time, and it's a great time to get further commitment because they've just done the commitment for you. You haven't detracted them from the sales process. They like Damian says, they're in this period, and I think it's a good opportunity to get something else that helps the brand connect with that customer going forwards. Okay, so checkout. I've marked this with a slightly bigger pink roundel, only because I think this is the stage where we're all focused on getting the customer to, and this is really where we need to build in a lot of trust. We need to make sure that the customer feels like there's not too many distractions, but have all their needs been met? Have we assured them with any guarantees or returns policies? Have we got help and support? Do they feel like the place that the page is secure? And really what we're driving them to is the place order button at this stage as the action. Can you think of any other needs that might need to be met at this big commitment stage, Damian?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be dependent upon lots of different things. So if this is a big purchase, then maybe I'm still slightly hesitant. I'm still a little bit worried. Maybe I haven't heard of this brand before that I'm about to buy from, and maybe I still want a bit of security at this point. Is this safe in terms of fraud, but is it also safe to give my details? Is it safe as a company that I can trust and rely on? And I think some questions start to creep in at this phase as well, like, well, what if I change my mind? What if it's not what I expected it to be? Are there any hidden costs that I'm not aware of? So I think it's in some ways putting yourself in a slightly negative mindset and trying to anticipate what are the reasons why somebody wouldn't want to click that buy button, and how can we anticipate and overcome some of those issues.
Fantastic, thank you. So going in reverse order, we've got the basket. I mean, I often think the basket can be skipped with certain particular products or certain particular retailers. If you find that your average order quantity is one, like you're selling watches or things like that, then going straight to the checkout just bypasses a step. So we're not always driving people to the basket necessarily, but if you feel like you're going to take someone there as part of that journey, it's a great opportunity to sort of highlight any missed deals. If we know some things about the customer, maybe their IP, maybe their location, we can make some assumptions about delivery, so they can know how fast they can get the product in their hand. We can do some reassurances over privacy, and we can also let people know that, if it is a big purchase, we've got affordable payment options like split payments and things like that. But again, what we're driving here is we're driving people through the basket to the checkout, so proceeding to checkout. But it's a really good place to do those reassurances. Do you think that, Damon? Yeah,
definitely. And I think also bearing in mind that some people use baskets in different ways. Some people use it literally as almost a wish list. So not everyone uses the basket in the way that we want them to. They might just throw some things in there they're kind of interested in and might want to save for later. So I think it's understanding that not everyone's going to convert from this point, and giving them some sense of being able to manage that wish list, if you like. But I think, as you said, one of the key questions people ask at this point is, am I getting the best deal? And this is the point quite often. I see people going off to Google, promo codes, and that is a point where it's a bit dangerous because they can then suddenly get lost, distracted, doing something else, and almost kind of forget that moment they were in before. And the doubts start to creep in. Is this the best option? Should I go check Amazon, or should I check my local store first? And so I think trying to give as much reassurance to get them through as quick as possible is probably the best way. But I'd also just counter that with a lot of people when people are in this sort of basket checkout process, want to remove navigation and stuff. So really focus people. I probably wouldn't suggest that's a good idea, because it can feel a little bit restricted.
Would you agree with that with the checkout though? How do you feel about sort of removing distractions at the checkout page? Is that slightly different or the same?
Possibly, yeah. I think that's maybe the focus where you're focusing on entering your card details and stuff like that. So I think as long as the experience still feels like it's connected, the worst examples I think are where suddenly you feel you're in a very different place. So the design looks different, the styling is different, and then there's question marks about is this still the same place? Am I putting my credit card details into something completely not connected to the experience I was just in?
So it can be a bit alienating if you remove too much.
Yeah.
Okay. And then there's also mini baskets, I guess, that pop out from the side or drop down from the header. Again, we can still put those assurances and highlight those missed deals or delivery assumptions in there as well. So I think we can cater for those in both basket and mini basket. But like you say, if you put a distraction in there like promo code box, but you haven't got any promos on, that's kind of encouraging to go, oh, maybe there's a discount code out there. Let me go and hunt for that.
Yeah.
So maybe removing those sorts of things would be good.
I think there's another one there around preferred payment methods. You did mention this about splitting costs and stuff. But some people are quite wedded to, I don't know, PayPal or Apple Pay. And actually, if there's no preferred payment method that they like and they know is sort of safe as opposed to alternatives, then that can sometimes be a big turnoff.
I agree, totally. Okay, so product page, I've put this again as a big roundel, only because, again, this might be when we speak on the next couple of slides where your conversion narrative changes, but it's also probably where all of your storytelling leads up to. Your storytelling is starting from your advert through your landing pages, home pages, through to the product page. We've created a narrative for somebody to experience the brand, what you stand for, connecting with your product, and then the product page is probably where that changes slightly into focusing people through that basket checkout journey. But at this stage, I'm looking around. Is it a good deal? Is there clear product information like the size? I think you've got an example you showed me once of someone that got a pair of boots and they were like miniature, like a 4 centimeters tall, because they didn't read the description. I think what a lot of people miss on the product page is how quickly can I get it? How quickly can I get the product in my hand? We're waiting all the way till people get to, if they're doing it well, maybe the basket page. If they're doing it really badly, the checkout page, the first time they see when are they going to get this product. People say, oh, free delivery, fast delivery, and they don't actually say, well, you're going to get it tomorrow or you're going to get it in 2 days or whatever. So I think that on the product page is something Amazon's adopted ages ago. They've also got it on the category page. But yeah, on the product page, I think bringing that further up, and tools like Shipper HQ that we use with a number of different platforms have obviously got the intel and the API calls to be able to pull through the live rates from your system to anywhere in that customer journey. You may have to make some assumptions on where the customer is. You can always caveat those. But I think it's really important that someone is looking at a product, but they're also comparing it on how quick can they get that product with likes of Amazon or a high street retailer. They might have other things like, what if I see it cheaper? What if I need help? But ultimately, we're looking for that add to basket. Do you think that's fair in terms of the delivery message starting to be quite prominent at this stage, Damian?
Yeah, definitely, because this is where they've got a number of questions at this point. So is it the best price available, which we've covered? When will I get this is a key message. But I think the other one is the product image and the description really has to do a good job of helping make that decision easy. And a good example actually of that is AO.com. They do very good work and put in a lot of effort to try and explain features of a dishwasher or a fridge freezer, and in layman's terms, a lot of video
content as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and when I'm shopping around for stuff like that, I don't really want to have to learn about the different types of frost-free, to be honest. So I want an easy decision. I want to know that the decision I'm about to make is a good one, and feel a sense of like, I've done a good job, I found a good deal, and I've got the right product for me. So I think doing as much as you can to provide that peace of mind is really key at this point.
Great. We've got the category page. We've touched on that. Again, if you can bring that delivery message into unique products, some people might have different delivery rates on different products. Then again, that's going to be even more important, because you don't want to wash that with one delivery message and actually get to the basket and find out, well, you've got two different things, so it's a slower delivery. I think there's a bit of a distinction with what we're talking about today, and that's kind of conversion narrative and what we're trying to have as our primary and secondary messaging and the storytelling side of things. And we've got some examples further down that show both. But at this stage, really, again, what we're trying to do is drive people through to the view product. And in your e-commerce analytics, you'll quite often see, if you've got e-commerce tracking enabled, these are the steps that you're going to see highlighted by GA: is landing page, product view, basket, checkout success. And I guess that's where these messages change slightly. Moving on just to the landing page. So this is really a confirmation of the ad copy. Is it matched? Is it fulfilled? Have we said, have we delivered on what we said in the ad? You've always touched on trust. I remember you showing me a couple of different slides in our training on which site would you trust more. And when you look at the two, it's really obvious which one you trust more, because one of them looks like it's, late 90s American website, and the other one looks like it's a, super lean Silicon Valley startup website. And that instantly builds that trust. Is that something you think is important going from ad to landing page? Is the quality of that page important?
Yeah, I'd say landing page and some to some extent the category page, but I think the questions people are asking at that point is, am I in the right place? Am I going to find what I'm looking for? But ultimately, is this company safe and credible? And it's easy when you're a Gucci or a Burberry, when people know what they're getting to some extent, but it's not so easy when you're lesser well known. And so I think that's where, they're looking for credibility. They're looking for, is this going to be the right place for what I'm looking for? And are they going to be somebody I could trust with my money and my order? And that will, if you think about the different times when you buy things online, sometimes there's like, I don't know, a time sensitive nature to it. There might be a birthday or something important coming up. And that's where trust and credibility almost comes even higher, because you're potentially going to be in hot water if it doesn't work out and if they let you down. And so these things are where to start to lay that foundation that you can trust us, we are credible, and simple stuff like having a visible phone number can actually have quite a big effect on people.
Yeah, a phone number still feels like it's a tick against the credibility of a business, doesn't it? And that you're contactable. You're not trying to hide away behind walls and walls of self-help information.
Yeah.
I think one of the things I love from our training actually is the mental models. And perhaps when we land on a website, that we haven't been to before for the first time, we do have a little mental model checklist of things that look familiar. You always talk about the restaurant example, don't you? Do you want to explain that quickly? I think it's fascinating.
Yeah. So we have mental models in how we use the world around us. And so when you go to a restaurant, you have a picture in your mind of, you wait to be seated, and then you might sit down and you order your drinks first, and then you order your starter, and then you might order your main. But then you get all of those things in order, and then you order your dessert at the end. And so there's a whole kind of list of things that happen, rules, if you like, of what we expect. But no one ever sat down and taught us how a restaurant works. So we use our previous experience, we build up an understanding of how things operate. And when we go into a new environment, so, a good example would be a harvester, where you've got the salad bar and you go up and help yourself, or you've got a sushi bar where it comes out on a conveyor belt. When things break the mental model, it's not like it can't be done, but it can be a bit jarring. It can be like, well, what do I do? I'm not quite sure this is what I had in mind. And so when in the context of a landing page, it's really important that they see the familiar e-commerce things, you know, the basket in the top right, or it needs to feel like, okay, I'm in the right place. This doesn't feel like it's going to take a lot of mental effort, and I kind of get where I need to go first because it's based on my other experience.
So I think that's over time, these e-commerce experience have all evolved to become fairly familiar. You know, throwing something out there that's a bit left field might alienate people and harm your conversion overall, perhaps.
Yeah, so go have a look at Zara if you want an example of that. Because they it's not like they're massively different to an e-commerce site, but there are some subtle things there that can feel a bit jarring to people.
Great. And then finally, that goes through to your ad copy, and we'll touch on the ad copy in a moment. Just an example of how that might make you bounce or increase your bounce rate if those two teams that we spoke about earlier, maybe a marketing team and an e-commerce team, aren't, you know, aligned on the messaging that's going out there. So this is more about conversion narratives than storytelling, and we'll come on to storytelling in a minute. But most businesses that we look at quite often have a primary message and a secondary message, which might be, here's a range of products, you know, we've got the largest range, and here's how quickly you can get them. So it's free shipping when it's over X amount. Further down the journey, they might start adding a few more messages, like they may have a benefits bar, for example, on the landing page. So your advert has those two messages. Your landing page then says, oh, you know, we also offer expert advice. And as you go further down the page, you think, oh, I need to throw in other things to make them feel like, you know, they trust me. So we might have a price match guarantee. But then generally what happens is people stick these messages, stick to the same messages all the way through this experience. And we've not targeted the message to the relevant part of the journey. So even at the payment stage, we're still saying something like the largest range of X or free shipping over. And we've already done the billing and shipping. So why are we talking about shipping? You know, we may want to change those values message right at the end to be more aligned with the stage of the purchase they're at. So if we have a look at a more optimized conversion narrative, we can see really that the narrative changes at the different stages. So when we're on the product page, free shipping becomes way more important than the largest range, because we've already talked about the products, we've already refined our products, searched through the products, found what we want. Now does it become more important to start talking about, you know, how quickly can we get that product in their hands, and can we add more values message at that stage? So maybe it's not the right product, but don't forget to ask us, you know, speak to one of our experts. Maybe have a price match guarantee, so they think, okay, well, if I see it cheaper somewhere else in 10 minutes, that's going to annoy me, but you've reassured them with that. So at that product page stage, we've got a key kind of change in the primary and secondary messaging. Again, at the billing and shipping stage, we don't need to talk about shipping anymore. The shipping is on the page. So if we've got benefits bars that follow us all the way through with exactly the same message, probably not great to have that going on there. So again, does it mean those other secondary and tertiary message or values messages come up further up into that journey? So we may still be having reservations. Oh, is it the right size? Have I ordered the right part for the car or whatever else it is? And, you know, do I still need to be reassured about that price match? And at the payment stage, you know, does price match become more important? You know, okay, they're reassured, they've got what they want. Let's give them the two things that make them feel right. Well, if I see it cheaper somewhere else, that becomes my guarantee, my price match guarantee. That becomes my primary message. Oh, and you know, if you have got it wrong, we've got 30-day returns. So those are some kind of key changes. And what we're trying to do with each of these messages is just get the customer to the next stage. So our messaging, our primary messaging on our external link is just to drive the customer to that landing page. The landing page is just to drive the customer to the product page. But at the product page, we have quite a big switch. So, you know, we need to move away from perhaps our initial marketing lure and change it to more of a delivery experience value message to get people further down that journey. As I said earlier, you could bypass the basket, but moving them on to that next stage, which is that billing and shipping. And again, at that stage, we have a switch. We don't need to talk about getting the product in their hand anymore. They've seen the rates, they've picked the rate that they want. and it now becomes about reassurances to get them through to that payment stage. Just at those key stages, there's a couple there, like the delivery in the basket. So the basket page, you had some thoughts on what customers might be thinking at that stage, Damian?
Yeah, I mean, we have covered some of that already, but I think delivery in the basket page there really is just around, what if I'm not in? You know, what happens if this thing gets delivered and it sits on my doorstep and it's a valuable item, and have I got any control? Yeah, have I got any control over that? And what happens if it doesn't turn up when you say it's going to? And so I think just it's kind of, as I said before, it's kind of thinking slightly negatively and trying to preempt some of that stuff.
Okay, cool. And then our storytelling narrative, we've got an example in a minute, but kind of the storytelling element, do you want to explain maybe about how that would connect with a cohort or an audience, or how you might bring that messaging through from advertising through to your landing pages or product pages?
Yeah, so the storytelling stuff is about creating a connection or evoking an emotion, or, you know, trying to make sure that when somebody is coming through this experience, that they clearly see the value that they're going to get. And I think that, you know, communicating the value proposition of the brand. So if you're just selling a widget for a certain price and that's it, then you're not really giving people enough reason to buy from you, as opposed to Amazon, eBay, or any other supplier. So I think it's really trying to really hammer that point home of why are they coming to you, and why would they come back to you, and what is it that they believe about what you offer that matches their lifestyle or ethos, or you know, how does your mission attach to theirs in some way? So are you selling sustainable products? Is there something? So it's trying to match with the users that you are targeting the most, and making sure that it's an easy decision from a kind of emotional perspective, because the logic stuff is a lot of this stuff. Is it the right price? Is it free shipping? So the logic side's kind of covered. The emotion side is a lot harder to pin down, but it's probably equally as important. So, you know, we're quite emotional beings when we make decisions, and we do tend to make emotional decisions. So if we can make that easy through good storytelling, then you're onto a winner.
Perfect. And again, in the white paper download, we've got a page on this. There are kind of a few key stages. The awareness stage, so that's when the person or the customer is engaging with your brand, perhaps for the first time. They're trying to discover about you, and that's where they're going to connect with some sort of storytelling, or a story surrounding something that they believe, like you said, ethical products or something like that. We've got a consideration stage. So that would be more when they're looking at specific products, before they then go into a purchasing and retention stage. So I think from what I've tried to put on the slide here, the storytelling narrative part is something that flows through from the advertising right the way up to the product page, but then also starts after the product's been delivered, like we discussed. You know, what's in the box? How do they find, you know, other products? How can we engage with them again after the product's been delivered? So that would be your retention stage. But yeah. Okay, great. Thank you, Dim. So here's some examples. We've got Holland & Barrett advertising here saying 50% off a large range of products. But when you land on the website, it's buy one, get one free, or it's buy one, get one half price. So buy one, get one free, technically, I guess, is 50% off, but it's not 50% off a range of products. You're going to have to buy two to get them both at half price. So does a message that starts out from your marketing team, when it lands in your e-commerce world and from your e-commerce's team's marketing, change and then cause confusion? And I think this would increase bounce rate, and also reduce the trust in the brand. How do you feel about that, Damian?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think I've seen quite a lot of ads set up probably a long time ago that haven't maybe been optimized to the landing pages that they're sending people to. And the first thing you're going to notice there is people clicking an advert, spending money on that advert, people going through to the page and going, well, yeah, but this is what I was expecting. So yeah, it's really key to get it right.
And that's a good point, actually. You know, you might be using external marketing agencies or have a different team that does the marketing, and the ad has just, not been rejuvenated based on the current promotions, and that's why you end up with the situation like this. When we land on Holland & Barrett's page, sorry, Holland & Barrett, but when we land on Holland & Barrett's page, they are predominantly about price. They've started off with a price message. They've actually taken me to a specific landing page when I've clicked on it that says buy one get one free. But when we land on their homepage, they are a price-driven business. So the message is all about how cheap we can get the products or how much discount there is around the product. So you've got extra discounts. We've already seen that we've got buy one get one half price or buy one get one free. We've got 20% off if we get the app. We've got free delivery when you spend over £25, although it doesn't say how quickly you're going to get it. It just tells you that it's free. And then we've also got rewards. So everything that they're trying to message there is more around the price center. But Damian picked up when we were speaking prior to the call about their kind of storytelling message. Do you want to explain a little bit about that, Damian?
Yeah, just that the storytelling in the middle there around the menopause matters. I mean, this is something that's quite different potentially. So if you go shop around for vitamins, for example, you're not necessarily going to get this message. So this is where their storytelling becomes stronger as the reason to believe. And I'm going to talk a little bit in a minute about some of their opportunities, because what they do very well in store is most of their store staff have got good knowledge around their products. They understand the products. They can give advice on sort of well-being, and the fact that they're going quite strong on a well-being message up front is giving people a reason to believe in them and maybe a reason to engage in them in a different way. So it gives them a reason, I guess, comparatively to other competitors, to stick around and use them again.
And they've gone quite sort of full beans on this, haven't they? They've got a menopause hub at the top left, so it's taken the primary navigation spot. They've got the main landing banner there as well. And like you say, Holland & Barrett in a unique position to offer this kind of expert advice in store. And by, showcasing their expertise online, this cohort or audience will feel that the products that they're shown after that click to the shop now section will all be catered for, someone going through menopause. So hopefully that's a storytelling narrative that I hope they reflect in their offline advertising, but certainly as soon as you land on the page, that's a very clear sort of inroad to a set audience. If we have a look at the product page, then the primary messaging hasn't changed. It's still about discount. It's still about the buy one get one half price, subscribe and save. Don't forget to use the code. I still don't know when I'm going to get this in my hand, and I think when we're looking at a product like this, it varies product to product. But when I was speaking to Damian yesterday, I'm going to compare against my next outing to a physical shop. So I know I'm going to be going up to the high street, in the next 2 days. Maybe I could grab one and save on the delivery fee. Well, you haven't told me you've told me it's free delivery over £25, but this isn't. It's buy one get one half price, so that's now going to be sort of under a tenner or just over a tenner. So, I'm now comparing this against the high street option. They also have a high street option. They've not made it abundantly clear that there's a click and collect at this stage. So all I'm looking at is £5.99, probably plus delivery. Maybe that's going to be a £5, and that makes me then want to go and check Amazon. So if I check Amazon, I've got exactly the same product, the same price. I haven't got buy one get one half price, but I have got free delivery on orders over £25, and I know that I'm going to get it tomorrow. So that for me tells me more than Holland & Barrett saying they haven't thought about that secondary message or changing the primary message to be about delivery at this stage. They're still very focused on price. Any thoughts on that at all, Damian?
Yeah, just the only other thing that they do quite well is they've got in that product title there, so Dr. Organic, they also mention it's natural, vegan, cruelty-free. They're packing the benefits and the reasons to buy into that product description. So in that very small window, you're getting quite a lot of information. I mean, you could argue there's a bit too much information, but they do know what to do in terms of getting that sale and convincing somebody to buy from them.
So if you think from the customer's perspective, at this stage, I'm thinking Amazon, or I'm thinking I could pop into my local Boots Superdrug or Holland and Barrett if it's local. They haven't really pushed their knowledge of the product, like Damian says. They haven't pushed how quickly you can get the product into someone's hands, or the fact that I could go in store, collect it in store, and actually ask some questions around it, like, is this good for X? So yeah, I think they're lacking changing their messaging at this stage in the process to reflect what the customer might be thinking. They're just, again, on price, which we all know that, Holland and Barrett focus on that, but think about it in context with the stores that you run and own. Buried further down the page, by opening a little kind of concertina, you can see some delivery options. Damien, give us your thoughts on these, because I know you didn't like the end picture, did you? The
I mean, it's a bit pernickety, but the others have got icons that clearly differentiate them. And then you get onto the last one, which is potentially you could argue this is unequal to next day delivery, but the next day delivery icon, you've got like a truck that's moving fast, so it's quite clearly differentiating the previous option. Whereas nominated day delivery just feels a bit weak in this context. So, maybe they could do a bit more there. I think there's also, as you point out, Adam, there's like some messaging on the next day delivery that isn't on nominated day delivery. So what does that mean? If I'm comparing, the order by 8 p.m. So if I'm comparing them, it's kind of difficult. I don't know, for me, having 4 options like that feels a bit complicated, and we are quite simple beings when it comes to this kind of stuff, and it suddenly feels a bit difficult. So what is supposed to be a benefit to me suddenly feels like I've got to work a bit hard at it. And then they're not available on orders via PayPal Express. Why not?
Which one's not available?
Yeah, I mean, it's got an asterisk. What does that mean, and why not? And if that is my preferred method, what do I do with that?
Cool. So again, basket page, we're still focused on the buy one get one half price. The actual one at the bottom in red really threw me, because I thought, okay, I'll throw another product in the basket, and you can see that's different to the previous product that we had here. So we've got 2 products in this basket, yet it still said buy one get one half price. So I thought that was a message that was telling me, oh, don't forget to add another one, which I guess would have been useful, that I've missed out on a promotion. But actually that just stays there the whole time. So that's just part of the text of the product that sits in the basket, which I don't feel particularly helpful. First time, other than in that drop down section on the previous slide, first time we see collection availability. Should we have pushed that further up the page? Should that have been one of our primary or secondary messaging? But again, this is the whitewash of the message. It's just price all the way through. It's just price. And I think Amazon are competing on a different level. Your high street are competing with this particular purchase because of the value of it and the type of purchase it is. Great. Yeah, Damian, a couple of slides that you'd like you to talk through. Take us away.
So I just wanted to highlight the fact that the Holland and Barrett have got a very unique opportunity in that, like I said before, they're all of their staff in the store are experts. They know what they're talking about. And actually, I was really pleased to see that they brought this into the e-commerce experience, where you can book a 15-minute consultation with an expert advisor. So they are bringing that narrative through into the online experience, which is really clever, and it's good to see that that's happening. There were
COVID, didn't we? Like the kind of go in store type, get the online help that you would get in store online. So yeah, absolutely, and we're starting to see it more and more now, is bringing that experience to people who maybe can't visit the store. But we also said yesterday, like that. You wouldn't get this from Boots, wouldn't you? Because Boots just employ kind of cashiers and people who know what aisle stuff's on. But Holland and Barrett obviously invest quite heavily in the product knowledge of staff. If you go in and ask a Holland and Barrett employee, which kind of supplement should I take for this or whatever, they'll actually be able to guide you, which you wouldn't get in Boots or Superdrug. Yeah,
absolutely. So if you go on to the next one. So this is just an example of what they could do. So Selfridge is obviously a totally different product, but what they do on all of their high-end sort of fashion products is they provide a bit of a Selfridge Says summary of what the item is and why it's a great purchase. And I just think that's a really nice touch that actually Holland & Barrett could bring into their product pages of, you know, an expert view on what this product does and what it's great for, and, you know, give me a bit more confidence this is the right thing to buy for me. And it's quite, I'm sure it's quite intensive in terms of having to do this. But it does remind me a bit of the Borders, was it Borders or Waterstones, where you used to be able to walk around the store and you used to see little notes from the staff saying, oh, I read this and I loved it and it was great for this. It's a more personal touch. It feels more like an experience that I might come back to again and again.
Yeah, and I think that's probably how you take this a step further, isn't it? So rather than Selfridges Says, you could have one of the I don't know, fashion buyers for Selfridge and humanize it a bit and have what they have to say specifically. And that's what you've done with that example. Great.
Yeah. And then this other one is Care Of. And basically what they do is they've got an online store, but what they try and do is they push people to take that quiz. So you see on the left-hand side, there's a big call to action for take the quiz. And effectively what you're doing in that quiz on the right-hand side is you're giving a lot of personal information about you and how it works, and what you need. And then they personalize the experience to you and they give you suggested products. And it feels like Holland & Barrett could do something similar. You know, they could take advantage of trying to understand their customers better and then serve them products that suit their particular, I don't know, skin condition or need or health need.
You could generalize it, can you? Like fitness, wellness, those sorts of things, you know, healthy eating, you know, lots of different sort of topics they have, or lots of different categories they have.
Yeah.
But having this additional information is only going to sharpen up the products that you show them. It could be a quiz that then refines and shows them a set of products. It could be a quiz that, you know, collects that information, adds it to their account and allows you to segment your audience and send out different marketing messages to drive different products to different audiences. So I think doing that sort of thing has lots of different data benefits.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of my favorites then.
Yeah, this slide is just an example of a good UX design technique. So basically what happens is when we see things all moving in the same direction or a different direction. So in this example, all the shoes are pointing to the left. And so we, in our mind, group them as all one thing. They all belong together. But that one that stands out as it scrolls in a second, it stands out because this one's different. So take notice of this one. So I wanted to highlight this because Holland & Barrett have got the big red banner at the top saying, you know, here's the code, the discount code. You don't have to be quite so, you know, flashing light. It can be quite a subtle messaging that you can deliver through good design, just to highlight some of your narrative and highlight some of the key benefits of the products or the service you're offering. So I just quite like this example.
Yeah, it's like the obscurity of it catches your eye more, doesn't it? Everything else is uniform, yet this is bucking the trend.
Yeah, exactly.
Great, thank you very much. So for Holland & Barrett, how could they improve the primary and secondary messaging? Well, the primary messaging seems to be centered around price, discount and price. That's fine. That may be their primary message to lure people in. We obviously spoken about the menopause audience and the storytelling, so some of their marketing might be aimed at that, but when you land on the page you're primarily talking about discount and price. It's a very crowded secondary message. It's download the app, it's free delivery, it's get our reward points. So, you know, perhaps a more clearly defined secondary message that followed you through to the most appropriate point. Don't forget, we're competing against the high street to get the product in the customer's hand. You know, we're not always just like for Amazon or like for another retailer. We might be competing with something else on a more locality basis, like the local shop. Messages don't clear if deals are complete in the basket. So like I said, that buy one, get one half price or buy one, get one free didn't go, even though I had two in the basket. So when we're perhaps it would be easier to say, oh, you've not yet met our buy one get one free offer. Then when you have, it's, you know, a big tick to say, great, you've done the best you can, you've got the best deal from us today. And that's another reassurance to get you through to that checkout stage. So we've got some humanization next, and I was a little bit oblivious to this till we started talking together, Damian, but now I see such a benefit to this. We interact with technology, but actually it's a human writing this text and it's a human reading this text. So when I land on the Beaver Brooks site and it says to me, okay, how do you want to pay? Well, I'll pay in full today. Great, I can see all the payment options there. Or I'll pay later. Oh, okay, it's Klarna as well. So I haven't said credit and debit card and pay later or Klarna. I've actually kind of said, how do you want to pay? Oh, well, I'll pay in full today or I'll pay later. And I think that humanization is great. How do you feel about that particular example?
Yeah, I like this one. I think it's as you go on in the experience, I think what they've done is they've just brought in that probably more personal. They're a jeweler, right? So, as you go into a jeweler's, you're probably spending a lot of money. You get a more personal experience, and they're bringing that through into the copy and the e-commerce site, and they do quite a good job of that. So it just makes it feel nice and friendly. Yeah,
and look at the bottom. They've got that order in this time for free, next day delivery. Okay, I know I'm getting it tomorrow if I order that quickly. So they've covered that base as well on that one page, and that's your bag or basket page. Then we've got this one. I really love this one. How would you like to get your order? Deliver via courier to any address in the UK, or I'll collect. So deliver via a courier or I'll collect from a store or post office. Again, we're asking a question. We're giving some responses there. Instead of choosing courier or click and collect, we've actually asked a question and got the human responses. So again, just another example of how you could change that language to match human to human rather than tech to human. The last example, Damian, I'll let you explain, but I love this one as well.
Yeah, so this one is MailChimp, who have some great examples actually, but this is just one of those little things that can make you smile, right? So username Graham, another user with this username already exists. Maybe it's your evil twin, Spooky. It's the small details that can make such a big difference to, putting a smile on your face and wanting to use a service. And also just your password is secure and you're all set. It feels much more human.
Brilliant. Thank you. So have we got any questions? Chris?
Right. So if anybody has any questions, please pop them in the chat and I'll read them. And it could be a question about the webinar. It could be any question about e-commerce and UX as well, since we have Adam and Damian here. I'm going to start using my advantage that I can actually speak. So when we talked about primary and secondary messages there, and it's something we talk about in our white paper as well, we say that the primary messages generally are the more important messages, and they talk about your brand values and stuff like that, and then secondary messages are there to support. But sometimes you can have the same message as a primary and a secondary message depending on where it is in the customer journey that you were showing in one of the first slides. So my question is it the same message, or are we trying to make it a bit more important, a bit better? How would you approach that?
Well, so just to understand your question, how does the way we display the message change? Can we have kind of multiple messages of the same thing, or should they be different? Is that right?
Yeah, if it's the same message but it's in a different stage of a customer journey, and then it could change from a secondary message to now a primary message.
Yeah, so I think the primary message should always be far clearer, far more prominent. It doesn't have to always be the same sentence. We don't have to say the same discount message all the way through, done in the same way. It could be done graphically. It could be done with text. It could, the actual text could differ. Like we said in the basket, you haven't qualified, you haven't yet added your 2 for 1. Great, you've added your 2 for 1. It's still the same message, it's just done slightly differently. I think what we're trying to say is at key points in the conversion funnel or in the sales funnel, a lot of retailers just keep that same message plastered all the way through, and I think it's better placed to change that to perhaps what the customer's mindset is at that stage. So I've found the product, instantly I'm thinking about how do I get the product in my hand. That should be clearer than perhaps the savings that they're making, because they've already been told that it's 2 for 1. They can see it's 2 for 1. It now becomes more about how quickly can you get it. Any thoughts on that, Damien?
The only thing I would say on that is, I totally agree. I think context is so important, and it's something that you learn quite early on in UX, that the person is in a certain context, in a certain mindset, and the information that they need is relevant to that, and anything else that doesn't fit that context, they kind of ignore or find a distraction. So yeah, I just would agree with what you're saying.
Brilliant. Any others?
Yeah, we have a question in chat. So everything that you've touched today has been very interesting, but exclusively B2C. What tips or suggestions would you have for increasing conversions for B2B?
Well, Amazon compete on a B2B level now, don't they? They're clearly showing things like prices, including and excluding VAT. Businesses can be VAT registered or not VAT registered. Quite a lot of B2B businesses do a fair amount of, not necessarily drop shipping, but they've got really robust supply chains. So they might not stock the product and then order it in knowing they get it next day and then can ship it to the customer in 2 days. So some products you're not going to be able to offer next day delivery. Some products might be, 2 or 3 day delivery, whereas others that you stock might be next day. So when the customer comes to the website, knowing the difference between, okay, I can get that tomorrow, say if I'm pricing up a building job or something like that, and I've got to go tomorrow and do something, well, I know I can order that and it'll be here in time for me to complete that job. Therefore, I can go to that site and do that tomorrow. Whereas the other product that might be a longer delivery time, I can make my plan to revisit and fit that component at another stage. So I think delivery messaging is still massively important from a B2B point of view. And it's a question that, remains if it remains unresolved until they get to the basket, it's just going to cause frustration. So bringing that message higher up the e-commerce journey, into the category pages, into the product pages is going to help. There are solutions like Shipper HQ, depending on the platform, offer a split shipment option. Again, Amazon do this, have this tomorrow, have this on Wednesday. And they know that they're going to get 2 deliveries as opposed to 1. I think that's probably a good thing that would help in the B2B space. Damian?
I would just say that there's always a temptation in B2B to treat people differently, but actually we are people at the end of the day, and the messaging and the concerns we have are all very similar.
It's back to being human on human, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Great. We are running out of time, so I'm just going to cover a few extra bits. So Chris is going to launch an offer now in the chat. There's only 5 of these available. So UX audit from us at Media Lounge. We may well involve Damian in those as well, depending on the customers that go for these. But also included in this, we'll draw one out of a hat and we'll give them a 3-month subscription to Hotjar. That will give us some insights and further data to help with the user experience. So Chris will stick that in the chat now. Sign up if you'd like one of those 5 available audits. So articles, we've been talking about this since April. We've got storytelling behind the e-commerce conversion success. We've got the correct use of language. We've got beginning with the end in mind and competing with Amazon on the delivery narrative. That might be useful for the person that raised the B2B question. All of these are available in our white paper download. So Chris, again, thank you. If you can put the link in the chat, you can click and download that white paper. Really good resource. It's also got the pages I was referring to with the stages of the buyer journey: awareness, consideration, purchase, and retention. I think that's super useful. Damian has been very kind and given us a UX best practice checklist. Damian, do you want to explain what that is?
Yeah, just very quickly, just some categories there that are worth checking out that give a kind of overall view of a user experience to make sure you haven't forgotten anything. I do have a more detailed one that I can offer if you email me. I've just put it in the chat. But ultimately, it's just a kind of first pass at an experience to say, have I covered all of the key aspects?
Brilliant. So Chris will make that available in the chat now. There's a download. It's just a free kind of white paper checklist. Thanks for providing that, Damian. That's a really useful tool. So, what's this going to do for me? So hopefully it's going to improve the user experience by thinking from a user's perspective. I think Damian's just hit the nail on the head with that last comment. All buyers, whether it's B2B or B2C, they're all human, they're all people, they're all used to buying experiences, they all crave better user experiences. So treat them all as humans. Can we distinguish between the right narrative at the correct stage of the purchase? So, you know, are we using the right narrative on the advertising, the landing page, the product page, the checkout? And just make sure, you know, we've got that distinction between storytelling and conversion narrative. They're two different things. Conversion narrative is about that flow through that e-commerce journey. Storytelling is about connecting with the audience and resonating with them. Have we resolved all the queries? Have we got all the concerns out of the way? Have we reduced friction? I know we spoke, Damian, about, you know, causing friction at some stages to make people feel like there's been an investment of time on the retailer's part. Things like, compare the market, when they give you a little spinny wheel and then slowly load in all of your insurance options. Actually, they could deliver them in 10 seconds, but they make you feel like they're working really hard. So you feel that there's a bit of commitment on each side. But generally in e-commerce, we want to remove friction and improve that journey. And remember, we're connecting with humans. Talk to them like they're next to you. Connect with them as the audience, and as Damian said with that last B2B comment. Any further comments at all, Damian?
No, I don't think so. I think we probably need to let everyone go. But I've got my email address in there if you want to ask any further questions.
Perfect. So you'll get a link with view this again via email. We'll host a copy on the website, so Chris will post a link to that. There's links on our website for the white paper and the downloads. And then next month we start our campaign, which will be information architecture. So we're getting a lot of questions around that at the moment, positioning of certain things, aspects, buttons, graphics, eye catchers on the page. And then also we've been reading a bit about the way people scan and read pages. So the findings of all of that to come in our next quarter, which is information architecture. So thanks very much for joining us. Damian, thank you so much for giving up your time to talk with us this afternoon. And thanks to the Media Lounge team behind the scene, Chris, John, Carly, for making it all happen. So thank you very much.